Welcome into the Devil's Digest postgame show following Arizona State's 80-65 loss here at Desert Financial Arena to number 5 Houston. ASU now moves to 3-12 in Big 12 play, 12-14 on the season, and this marks the 7th straight home loss for the Sun Devils. As always, I'm Justin Lestertosa. That's publisher Hode Rubino. And Hode, coming into this matchup, obviously a top 5 team in the country and best team in the Big 12, arguably, to a lot of people, and one of the best scoring defenses in the entire country. That defense definitely came as advertised, and one of the better shooting teams in the entire Big 12. Houston shot the lights out of the ball.
Yeah, Justin, I think we very possibly saw a Final Four team here in Tempe tonight. I know that ASU played a lot of good teams in the Big 12 and played them much closer. But against a team like Houston, and I think ASU head coach Bobby Hurley said it best, they were just the more talented team out there. They really are very well-rounded, as you mentioned. Bobby Hurley said, and I don't think he was even joking, that the fact that ASU was able to shoot 43% against a team that consistently does hold its opponents under 40%, not a moral victory, but definitely nothing really to really gloss over. And they're not really an explosive offensive team for a number 5 team in the country, but like you said, they shoot the 3 ball extremely well. Just in the second half alone, they shot over 53%, shot 47% for the game. You had a player like Emmanuel Sharp, who scored, I think, 6 points in the first half, all coming from the free throw. And then he comes out in the second half, had back-to-back threes, made 4 threes in the second half alone. And that's one example of many. So it's really just a team that can really hurt you very badly on each side of the floor. And again, sometimes you just have to really tip your cap to your opponent. I do give credit for ASU for fighting, especially down the stretch, to try to make the score somewhat respectable after they trailed by as many as 23 points. But Houston is a team that's going to be a handful for every Big 12 team this year. It's already been proven that way. And I think there'll be a handful during the NCAA tournament as well. Just a very talented team. I think by far the best team we saw here in Tempe, and probably the best team that ASU played all season long.
Yeah, as we just alluded to, defense definitely came as advertised for Houston. Really made it hard for ASU to find those efficient looks. And then for ASU's defense, it really was tough for them to kind of limit those three-pointers and that barrage that Houston brought. But a big game for Alston Mason, who kind of kept ASU in it at points down the stretch. What did you like out of ASU throughout this game?
Yeah, I got into a little argument during the game saying that I think Alston Mason is by far the team MVP for the Sun Devils. Some folks came back to me and said B.J. Freeman. I think B.J. Freeman is definitely up there, but a close second to Alston Mason. I just been really impressed all season long, ever since his backup Austin Nunes went down with an Achilles injury. Alston Mason has basically been playing, if not 40 minutes a game, pretty darn close to it. I think it was the last game where Bobby Hurley said Alston Mason did ask for a breather, and Bobby Hurley said, "I'm sorry, I can't take you out." So to me, that's definitely the definition of the most valuable player of the team. But I'm just extremely impressed by what he's done in such a struggling season for him, for him personally, and for the team as well. I mean, he's not playing probably at the level that he wants to play, but still producing quite a bit. He led all players on the floor with 26 points, 8 and 9 from the field, 4 and 5 from 3-point range. Some of those heat checks were definitely impressive, even though this game was never really close. But I think that he's one player that when you can look back at the end of the season to try to find any bright spots in a campaign that's been absolutely miserable for the Sun Devils, I think Alston Mason is really the first name that is going to come to mind. B.J. Freeman was the only other player in double figures for the Sun Devils, scoring 17 points. So part of it is really just the defense that Houston employed. Bobby Hurley said it looked like they had 6 players on defense at many times, and that's true, because you would see an ASU player get double teamed, and you think like, okay, that's the easiest thing to do, to find the open player, and you still cannot find the open player. I mean, the number of deflections on defense that the Cougars had to be easily in the double figures, maybe just in the first half alone. And that's an absolute clinic. And even though you preview the game, you know what to expect coming into tonight, it really is a little bit of a shock and awe performance by a team that definitely justified their number 5 ranking in the nation. I think for ASU, besides facing such a juggernaut defensively, really having both of their freshmen struggle quite a bit for the first time this year. Both Jaden Quaidance and Jason Sanan were scoreless. Jaden Quaidance only played 13 minutes. Bobby Hurley said that even though he looked good in practice yesterday and in warm-ups, as he recovers from that ankle injury, once the ball was tipped off, it was quite evident that they really was struggling, so he did not play the entire second half. Even with healthy Jaden Quaidance, you don't know how much ASU really could put up a fight to Houston, but without him, it just makes it, that much harder. Jason Sanan, I mean, you and I seem, talk about every week that he just has not been the same player ever since that ankle injury that he suffered against BYU in the Big 12 opener on New Year's Eve. And I think there's only one game in the Big 12 slate that Jason Sanan did score in double figures. Otherwise, it's been single figures each and every time. And that's just not a luxury that ASU can afford. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why ASU only has three Big 12 wins on the season. You would expect guys like Adam Miller, to step up. Sean Phillips, even they had a good game against TCU. Really kind of regressed tonight. So, it's basically an overall struggle, for the Sun Devils. But again, Houston is one of those teams that even if you're coming in with some confidence on the offensive end, Houston is one team that can really take that confidence away in a hurry. So really, just the same song and dance for ASU, just being frustrated offensively, and now you're chucking up threes when you're really not supposed to. I think, ironically, Justin, they did have some very, very good ball movement, and I think when you look at the entirety of the season, there were some great ball movement sequences. I know that you tweeted some of those videos out. Again, I'm not saying it to take away as a moral victory or anything like that, but it just shows that when this team does want to really share the ball and have good ball movement, good things do happen. There were some very good plays out of timeouts that worked for ASU, but everything was just too little, too late. You give credit for the fight that they showed down the stretch. They brought down the deficit all the way down to 12 points. You thought maybe they can quote unquote escape with a single-digit loss, but Houston now decided to put on the claps again defensively. So a 15-point loss, I think, is pretty indicative of what we saw tonight at Desert Financial Arena.
Yeah, well, the Sun Devils haven't won a game on their home floor since January 4th, and this marks the 6th total loss in a row for ASU. But a couple days to recuperate ahead of Kansas State on Sunday, and then back here at home next Wednesday against BYU. What do the Sun Devils have to do to sort of string some momentum together ahead of this final part of the season?
Yeah, look, I mean, those teams are going to be the caliber of Houston. They're not. But Kansas State and BYU are two teams that are definitely knocking on the door for the field of 68. BYU, that's maybe the ominous loss, if you will, that ASU had on New Year's Eve, because they absolutely got boat raced by the Cougars in Provo. And talk about boat raced, just earlier tonight, BYU boat raced Kansas on their home floor. Is BYU a different team on the road compared to home? Yeah, I think to some extent they are, but I think that's going to be one hell of a test. For Arizona State, but if that's a game that they can win, I think you definitely would put it in the category of a quality win. But first things first, you have Kansas State on the road on Sunday. Kansas State was here not too long ago. Another of those woulda, coulda, shoulda games for ASU. A game that ASU definitely was not able to close out at the end. So I don't know if the disparity of talent is that big between both teams compared to what we saw tonight against Houston. I think that ASU, ironically, Justin, does play better away. And I'm not just saying it because they lost their 7th consecutive home game, but two of their Big 12 wins have been on the road. They played a great game against then number 12 Texas Tech, losing in double overtime. If you remember the game at Kansas, they played probably the best first half of basketball compared to any other contest this year. Yes, they did end up losing that game, but it's funny, with the us against the board mentality does kind of work, I think, in their favor when you have such a struggle season when you do play away from Tempe. So I'm curious to see how they can play against Kansas State. I think there was some positives, as I mentioned earlier, that they maybe can take it to that Kansas State game. But just to repeat what I said earlier, if Jason Sanan and Jaden Quaidens are going to be scoreless or just really play much below their capabilities, I think it's just going to be just another long day in the office for the Sun Devils. This is a team that's really playing for its pride right now against a Kansas State team and later on against a BYU team. And they both know that every game does matter if they want to hear their name on Selection Sunday. So I'm curious to see when you look at a loss that they had against Houston, which was very different than the loss that they had against TCU, which was an absolute heartbreaker. Can they still take enough positives and not lose confidence when they go on the road against Kansas State? That's definitely going to be one very, very big test for the Sun Devils. But let's face it, this whole season has been one huge test and one that ASU has not been doing well overcoming.
Well, thank you, Lord, for your insight. Arizona State gets set to head up to Manhattan, Kansas this coming Sunday to take on Kansas State. So to stay tuned on all the coverage, go to DevilsDigest.com. Follow Devils Digest on Twitter at Devils Digest. As always, I'm Justin Lestertosa. That's publisher Hoder Bino. We'll talk to you guys soon.